She was released from the hospital a day early, but when she got home she found her husband in their bed, with his mistress. Without saying a single word, she left, blocked all the cards and changed the locks. But then, something happened that no one expected. The faint scent of antiseptic lingered in her nostrils, a stubborn reminder of the days spent confined within sterile white walls, surrounded by the incessant beeping of monitors. But now, as the breeze slipped through the car window, it carried the crisp, familiar air of Seattle, Washington, a blend of damp pine and the faint hum of urban life. Jessica Harper managed a smile, though it didn't quite reach her eyes. It was a start. Her early discharge from the hospital, a day ahead of schedule, felt like a gift from the universe, a sign that life might finally steady itself. The surgery had gone well, the doctor assured her, and rest at home was the final step before reclaiming her routine, her life. Leaning back in the ride-share's seat, her body still tender, Jessica's heart lifted with anticipation. She pictured Ethan's face, his genuine surprise morphing into that warm, relieved grin she loved. He wasn't expecting her today. He'd think she was still in the hospital, perhaps dozing under the haze of painkillers. The thought of surprising him, of stepping through the door like an unexpected miracle, warmed her from within. His embrace, the familiar comfort of his presence, would be the real medicine for her scars, both the ones stitched across her skin and those buried deeper. As the car wound through the tree-lined streets of her Capitol Hill neighborhood, Jessica replayed the past few months. Ethan's worry before her surgery, his hands gripping hers with a quiet intensity, his promises to be there, to handle everything. He'd been out of work, picking up odd jobs that barely covered his own expenses, but his emotional support, she told herself, was priceless. He was her anchor in a sea of uncertainty. The condo, a gift from her parents, was the sanctuary she'd built and generously shared with him. It was the foundation of their future. The driver pulled up to her building, a sleek mid-century structure with ivy creeping up its brick facade. "We're here, ma'am. Need help with your bag?" Jessica waved off the offer with a gentle gesture. It was just a small duffel with her hospital essentials. The real weight, the exhaustion, the recovery she carried inside. She paid the fare, wished him a good day, and moved slowly toward the entrance, her key sliding into the lock with practiced ease. Each step through the lobby echoed her anticipation. The elevator hummed quietly, a stark contrast to the triumphant fanfare playing in her mind. At the door of her condo, Unit 702, she took a deep breath. Her hand trembled slightly as she turned the key. She wanted this moment to be perfect. She opened the door with barely a sound, slipping inside like a shadow. The living room was dim, the blinds drawn against the gray Seattle afternoon. An odd silence hung in the air, not the calm of peace, but of absence. She set her bag down and tiptoed down the hallway toward the bedroom. The door was ajar. Then the silence shattered. Not with a loud crash, but with a low murmur, a soft moan that wasn't pain. It was intimate, private, and it froze the blood in Jessica's veins. Her heart pounded against her ribs, stealing her breath. That wasn't Ethan waiting for her. It was Ethan living another life, one that didn't include her. One step. That's all it took. One step from hope to hell. Through the crack in the door she saw a scene that seared itself into her memory like a brand. Ethan was in their bed, the bed her parents had given her, the bed where they'd dreamed together. And he wasn't alone. A woman moved over him with a familiarity that twisted Jessica's stomach. Her long auburn hair spilled over her shoulders, partially hiding her face. But when she turned, Jessica's breath caught in a silent scream. Lauren. It was Lauren, her patient. The young woman who'd come to her physical therapy clinic months ago with a shoulder injury and a bright smile. The woman Jessica had spent hours treating, using her hands to ease pain, restore movement, heal. There she was, in Jessica's bed, with her husband, in the heart of her home. The betrayal was a double-edged blade, slicing through her with deceit and ingratitude. The shock was so profound, so overwhelming, that the pain of her surgery vanished, replaced by a soul-deep wound that cleaved her in two. No scream, no tears. A chilling calm, the kind that precedes an earthquake, settled over her. The sound of her own pulse roared in her ears, the only thing tethering her to reality. She stepped back, each movement deliberate, precise, retracing her path with the same care she'd entered. She grabbed her bag, turned on her heel, and left. The door closed behind her with a soft click, a sound as final as a guillotine. In the elevator, her reflection in the mirror was unrecognizable, a pale woman with hollow eyes, a fresh scar on her body, and an unhealable wound in her soul. The nightmare wasn't a possibility anymore. It was her reality. Outside, the Seattle air felt thin, hard to breathe. Each inhale was like swallowing shards of glass. Jessica wandered aimlessly along the sidewalk, the world around her carrying on oblivious. Cars honked, baristas called out orders at the corner coffee shop, a street busker strummed a guitar, a mockery of normalcy against her devastation. How dare the world keep spinning when hers had just collapsed? She didn't know where to go. The hospital was unthinkable. Calling her mom, now fragile and living in rural Oregon, would be cruel. In the fog of her despair, one face emerged. A face that meant safety, clarity, a steady shoulder. Rachel. With shaking hands, Jessica pulled her phone from her bag. Her fingers fumbled twice before she managed to dial Rach Bestie Lawyer. The call was answered on the second ring. Jess. Oh my God, I thought you were getting out tomorrow. How are you? Is everything okay? Rachel's voice was a burst of warmth and concern. The sound of her friend's voice pierced the numbness, and a raw sob broke free, jagged and primal. Rach, Jessica managed, her voice cracking. I need you. No further explanation was needed. Where are you? Stay right there. I'm coming. 20 minutes later, an eternity, Rachel's car screeched to a stop beside her. Rachel leapt out, her lawyer's eyes scanning Jessica's state. The ghostly pallor, the glassy stare, the hospital bag clutched like a lifeline. Without a word, she pulled Jessica into a fierce hug, a grounding embrace that demanded no answers, only offered solace. And there in her friend's arms, Jessica's body gave in. The tears she hadn't shed at the scene of betrayal poured out, hot and bitter, a flood of pain, humiliation, and shattered love. Rachel's downtown loft was a mirror of her personality, sleek, organized, and warm. She guided Jessica to the plush sectional, draped a blanket over her shoulders, and returned from the kitchen with a glass of water spiked with sugar, a grandmother's remedy that felt oddly fitting. She sat across from Jessica, her gaze steady, waiting. The words came haltingly at first, then in a painful rush. Jessica recounted everything: the early discharge, the plan to surprise Ethan, the ajar door, the sounds, the indelible image of Ethan and Lauren in her bed. Each word was like reliving it, the knife twisting deeper. She told Rachel about the silence, her quiet exit, the feeling of becoming a ghost in her own home. Rachel listened, her face hardening with each detail. The lawyer in her catalogued the facts, but the friend felt the agony. When Jessica revealed that the other woman was Lauren, her patient, Rachel's fists clenched. The cruelty of it hit her like a physical blow. "That bastard," Rachel hissed, her voice low and venomous. "That leeching, spineless coward." She stood and paced the room, not out of nerves, but with the energy of a general plotting strategy. "Listen, Jess, you did the right thing by walking away, the smartest thing. No scene, no giving him the satisfaction of your pain. You took his power the moment he thought he had it all." She stopped, her eyes blazing. "Cry it out tonight. Let it all go. But tomorrow," she paused, pointing for emphasis, "tomorrow, we flip the script. He doesn't get to walk away unscathed. He doesn't get to have the last laugh." That night, Jessica barely slept. In Rachel's guest room, every shadow seemed to morph into that scene. She remembered Ethan calling her my rock, praising her independence, her career. Now it all looked different, tainted by manipulation. The life she funded wasn't a shared dream, it was a subsidy. The car he drove, the clothes he wore, the food he ate, all came from her work, her sweat. The condo, her parents' precious gift, her sanctuary, had become the stage for her deepest humiliation. She recalled their talks of the future. Ethan always promised that once things got better, he'd take over the bills, let her rest. Lies. Sweet, poisonous lies. He wasn't a partner building towards something. He was a parasite, feeding off her love and stability. The pain of betrayal now mingled with the rage of exploitation. The man she loved didn't exist. He was a mirage, a role he played to secure his comfort. The love she'd felt, so real and deep, had been his weapon. And the one who loved most, she realized with cutting clarity, had lost the most. The next morning, the Seattle sunlight felt artificial. Jessica caught her reflection in the mirror. Dark circles, swollen face, but a new spark in her eyes. Determination. The broken woman of last night was giving way to a wounded but unbroken one. Rachel was already up, a mug of strong coffee in one hand, phone in the other. "Morning, warrior. Sleep any?" "Enough," Jessica replied, her voice steadier. "Good. Because today's the first day of your new life. Step 1. Cut off the parasite's supply." Over breakfast, Rachel laid out the plan with military precision. First, the credit cards. You're the primary, he's the additional user. One call fixes that. Now. On speakerphone, Jessica called the bank. The voice on the line was clinical, detached. "Ma'am, can you confirm the cancellation of the additional cardholder, Ethan Carter?" "Confirmed," Jessica said, the word ringing like a gavel. "Next," Rachel continued, "joint accounts and access. We're removing him from everything, streaming, gym membership, anything in your name. And the big one, your condo." Jessica's heart faltered. The condo. "I can't go back there, Rach." "You don't have to, not yet, I will." Rachel took Jessica's keys. "I'll get a trusted locksmith. We'll change the locks on the front door and the condo when he's out. He probably thinks you're still at the hospital, prepping for discharge. He'll head there today. You stay here, safe. Then we'll figure out how to clear his stuff out." As Rachel left to execute the plan, Jessica sat alone with her thoughts. Each step they took was like untying a knot, disentangling her life from his. Cancelling the cards wasn't just financial, it was symbolic. She was cutting the umbilical cord to his comfort, to her life. She was taking back control, not with screams, but with calculated final actions. She imagined Ethan returning home. He'd try his key and it wouldn't work. He'd call her phone and she wouldn't answer. He'd knock and the door wouldn't open. The man who expected a broken, pleading woman would find only silence, a deafening silence. For the first time in 24 hours, a feeling beyond pain or rage stirred in her chest. Power. The power to shape her own fate. Rachel returned that night, mission accomplished. The locks on the condo and building entrance were changed. Ethan's old keys were now useless metal. The new ones, a small silver set, sat on Rachel's coffee table heavy with meaning. They were the keys to Jessica's reclaimed fortress, but also to the solitude awaiting her. "The next step's the hardest, Jess," Rachel said over coffee. "We need to clear his stuff out. It's not healthy for you to go back and see traces of him everywhere. And keep ignoring his calls. Let him stew in confusion." The thought of touching Ethan's clothes, his books, his razor in the bathroom sent a wave of nausea through Jessica. Each item was a landmine of memories ready to detonate her fragile composure. "I can't, Rach. I can't go in there and do that." "I know. And you won't," Rachel said firmly. "My brother and I will handle it tomorrow. Operation Clean Sweep. We'll pack his clothes, shoes, everything into bags and boxes. We'll leave them in the hallway outside the lobby. He can figure out how to pick them up." The image was vivid. Ethan's belongings, the man who acted like he owned the place, dumped in the hallway like garbage. It was harsh, but the cruelty she'd endured was far worse. It was cleansing, sanitizing the space so her wound could heal. Jessica nodded, a silent gratitude for the friend who'd become her commander in this personal war. While Rachel and her brother carried out the operation, Jessica stayed in Rachel's loft, a refuge that was starting to feel like a cage. Silence was her enemy. She turned on the TV, but rom-coms felt like cruel jokes, and the news was irrelevant. She tried reading, but the words blurred meaninglessly. Her mind was in Unit 702, picturing Rachel folding the shirts Jessica had ironed, packing the shoes she'd helped Ethan pick out. Then her phone buzzed. Ethan's name flashed on the screen. Her heart lurched, a mix of panic and fury. He must have tried his card at a coffee shop, found the locks changed, realized she was gone. The first sign his world of convenience was crumbling. She stared at his smiling photo, taken on a hike in the Cascades. With a trembling finger, she declined the call. He called again, and again. 5, 6, 7 times. The relentless buzzing was like knocks on her sanity. Then came the texts. "Jess, babe, where are you? What's going on? The locks are changed. My card got declined. Did something happen? I'm worried. Why aren't you answering? I'm freaking out. Did something go wrong at the hospital? Call me, please. I love you." The word love hit like a punch. What kind of love was this? Love that tangled with another in their bed while she recovered from surgery. The hypocrisy was so brazen, it briefly drowned her pain in disgust. She powered off her phone. No more of his name, no more of his lies. By late afternoon, Rachel returned, tired but triumphant. Done, the sanctuary's cleansed, his stuff's outside the lobby. The doorman's been told not to let him in except to grab his bags. That night, Jessica decided it was time to go home. Staying longer at Rachel's would only delay the inevitable. She needed to face the empty space, the silence, the ghosts. She needed to prove the condo was still her home, not a crime scene. Re-entering the condo was tentative. The air smelled the same, but something was off. The scent of absence. No more of Ethan's sneakers by the door, no jacket slung over the couch. The bathroom was free of his toiletries. His side of the closet gaped empty. Rachel and her brother had been thorough. They'd even changed the sheets and comforter, swapping them for a fresh set, never used. Still, the bed was the epicenter of the quake. Jessica couldn't enter the bedroom. She closed the door and decided the couch would do for now. At least the couch hadn't been defiled. The next day brought the confrontation. Around noon, the intercom buzzed. The doorman's voice crackled through. "Miss Harper, Mr. Carter's here at the front desk. Says his key doesn't work and wants to come up." Jessica's blood ran cold, but her voice was steady. "He's not authorized to enter, Mike, I told you. His bags are in the lobby. He can come in, with you escorting, to pick them up. Then he needs to leave." A pause. In the background, Ethan's voice, loud and demanding. "He's insisting, Ms. Harper, says he lives here." "He doesn't live here anymore," she said, the words a final edict. "Please follow my instructions, Mike. I take full responsibility." She hung up and leaned against the wall, her heart racing. She pictured it. Ethan, his face twisted in disbelief and anger, barred from the building he'd treated as his kingdom. Escorted by the doorman's stern gaze to find his life packed into bags on the floor. Minutes later, pounding echoed through the door. "Jessica, open this damn door! What the hell is this? What's going on?" His voice, once tender, was now a growl of rage. She stayed silent, frozen in the living room. The knocks turned to fists, hammering the wood. "I know you're in there. Open up. We need to talk. You can't do this," he shouted, pleaded, threatened. He rattled the doorknob as if his will could undo the new locks. He expected hysterics, tears, a soap opera scene, a wife begging for answers he'd rehearsed. Instead, he met a wall, a silence more powerful, more humiliating than any scream. The silence of a woman who owed him nothing, not even a word. After nearly 30 minutes of his futile tirade, the noise stopped. She heard bags being dragged, the elevators ding. Then, nothing. The silence returned, but this time, it was peaceful. Victorious. He was gone. In the days that followed, Ethan's absence was tangible. The condo felt bigger, emptier, but slowly, Jessica began filling that void with herself. She rearranged the living room furniture, bought new plants, spent an afternoon in the bedroom, cleaning every corner, then putting it back together her way. The bed, once a monument to betrayal, was dismantled. She bought a new one, smaller, positioned to face the window. A fresh start. Then Rachel arrived with news that turned the pain of betrayal into something darker, more calculated. Her network of contacts stretched across Seattle. A lawyer friend working at a prominent firm mentioned a case that unsettled him. A client named Ethan Carter had approached him weeks before Jessica's surgery. "He wasn't just cheating, Jess," Rachel said, her voice heavy, sitting on Jessica's new couch. "He was planning a heist." The lawyer revealed Ethan had inquired about property division, specifically the condo. He wanted to know if, after their marriage, he could claim a share. The plan was sinister in its simplicity. Wait until Jessica's parents, with her income and savings, finished paying off the condo's mortgage. Once it was fully hers, free of liens, he'd file for divorce and demand half, claiming the payments made during their marriage were a joint effort. Her surgery, his concern, his support, it was all an act. He wasn't just cheating, he was biding his time for a financial strike. Lauren wasn't a mistake, a slip. She was part of his contempt. He chose Jessica's patient, someone she helped, perhaps to feel even more powerful, to mock the woman who supported him. The betrayal wasn't just emotional or moral, it was premeditated, cold, and mercenary. He didn't just want another woman. He wanted her money, her home, her future. He planned to use her and discard her, leaving her with nothing. The revelation was a second blow, harder than the first. The woman he betrayed in bed was the same one he planned to rob in court. Shock gave way to icy fury. The pain didn't vanish, but it was now fueled by a thirst for justice. "He won't get away with it, Jess," Rachel said, gripping her hand. "The condo's an inheritance, the law's on your side. But now, more than ever, we need to be ruthless. We file for divorce. And we make sure he doesn't get a dime of what's yours, what your parents gave you." Jessica looked out her window. Seattle's skyline glowed in the dusk. She wasn't the weeping victim anymore. She was a survivor, and she was ready to fight. Fury is a fire that can consume or forge. For Jessica, Ethan's calculated scheme burned away the last traces of sorrow, forging her resolve into steel. The pain lingered, a smoldering ember, but now it was clad in determination. She wasn't just defending herself, she was going on the offensive. Rachel's law office was a haven of calm and order, a stark contrast to Jessica's inner turmoil. Sitting in a leather chair across from her friend's desk, she felt less like a client and more like a comrade in battle. "First step is the notice," Rachel explained, her voice steady, courtroom sharp. "We'll send an extrajudicial notice to the address he gave when he last contacted you. It'll inform him of the divorce proceedings and ban him from contacting you directly by phone or through others. Any attempt will be documented and used against him as harassment." Jessica nodded. The idea of a legal shield between her and Ethan was an immense relief. "As for assets," Rachel continued, "the law's our ally here. The condo was inherited from your parents. Inherited property isn't part of community property in Washington state, which is your marriage regime. He has no claim to a single brick of that place." "But his plan? The mortgage payments my parents made during our marriage?" Jessica asked, doubt nagging at her. "A cheap trick by bottom-feeding lawyers," Rachel scoffed. "He'd have to prove he contributed financially to those payments, which he didn't. He was unemployed, living off you. We can prove all income came from you, your bank statements, tax returns. The burden of proof is on him, and he's got nothing. His shot will backfire." With papers signed, the divorce was filed. The slow grind of the legal system began. For Jessica, each document, each step, was an act of purification. She was legally, officially untying herself from him. Ethan's reaction was swift. The notice arrived, and with it his desperation as his house of cards collapsed. Ignoring the no-contact order, he launched a new campaign. Calls came from unknown numbers. Emails with subjects ranging from "please let's talk" to "you'll regret this" flooded her spam folder. He even contacted Jessica's mother, painting her as an unhinged wife swayed by a greedy friend. But Jessica, guided by Rachel, was a fortress of silence. She didn't answer, didn't respond, didn't explain. Every attempt was documented by Rachel and added to the case file. His desperation peaked on a rainy afternoon. Jessica was returning from her first week back at work, a tough but necessary step toward normalcy, when she saw him. He stood across the street from her building, soaked, hair plastered to his forehead. He spotted her and made a pleading gesture. His eyes were a pathetic mix of rehearsed remorse and barely concealed anger. For a moment, a flicker of the man she thought she loved stirred. But then she remembered the bed, Lauren, the plan to rob her. The memory was an antidote. She lifted her chin, turned away, and entered the building without looking back. The conciliation hearing was a farce. Ethan arrived with a lawyer who seemed as slippery as he was. He played the remorseful husband, crying, claiming he loved her, that her surgery had left him confused and scared. Jessica, beside Rachel, remained stoic. Her face was a mask of cold calm. When the judge asked if reconciliation was possible, her no was clear and resonant, echoing in the small courtroom. Ethan's lawyer went on the offensive, claiming Ethan had emotionally invested in the marriage and that the mortgage payments during it were a joint effort deserving compensation. Rachel calmly presented the evidence. Jessica's bank statements showing all payments came from her, Ethan's lack of contribution, the documented harassment. With each document, Ethan's lies grew transparent. The judge, seasoned and unimpressed, looked at Ethan with weary disdain. The charade didn't hold. The legal battle dragged on for months, but victory was inevitable. The divorce was granted with Ethan excluded from any assets. He had no claim to the condo, no right to alimony or compensation. He left her life as he entered it, with nothing. The day the final decree arrived, Jessica felt no euphoria, only profound relief, like shedding a weight she hadn't realized she carried. But the legal win didn't erase the scars. The condo, though hers, was steeped in memories. Every corner held a ghost. The living room where they watched movies, the kitchen where she cooked for him, the bedroom, the worst of all. One sleepless night, she made a decision. She couldn't rebuild in a mausoleum of her past. Selling the condo her parents gave her was painful but freeing. It was the last physical tie to her life with Ethan. With a realtor's help, it sold quickly. With the proceeds and her savings, she began searching for a new place. Not in Seattle, with its memory-laden streets, but in Bellevue, in a gated community surrounded by greenery and quiet. The new condo was under construction, which was perfect. She chose every detail, watched the walls rise, picked the flooring, fixtures, colors. It was a creation process, building her new home from the ground up. She chose soft hues, cream, taupe, seafoam green, clean-lined furniture, minimal decor, open space, and light. When she moved in months later, it felt like her first breath after a long dive. This place was hers, only hers. No trace of Ethan lingered. Here, surrounded by her choices, Jessica began rediscovering herself. She dove back into physical therapy, found joy in decorating her new home, tending her balcony garden, reading in her own quiet company. She was reborn, not from the ashes of lost love, but from the strength of her reclaimed dignity. Time, relentless, began healing what seemed unhealable. Life in the Bellevue condo was a balm. Jessica found herself in the silence, in the routine she chose, in the peace of answering to no one. Her work at the clinic, where her skill in healing others helped heal herself, became her focus. One busy morning, scanning her patient list, a name stopped her cold. Lauren. A common name, but the last name confirmed it. Her, the lover, the patient, the second face of her humiliation. For a moment, Jessica considered canceling, passing her to another therapist. But a cold calm, the same she'd felt leaving her condo that day, steadied her. No, she wouldn't run. She'd face her. When Lauren walked into the treatment room, her smile was the same, a bit sheepish. She had no idea. Couldn't imagine the woman in the white coat was the one who'd seen her in her bed, destroying her home. "Hey, Jess. Sorry I've been MIA. Had some personal stuff," Lauren said, as if nothing had happened. Jessica closed the door. The soft click echoed like a gunshot. She turned, her face calm, but her eyes heavy with knowledge. "Personal stuff, Lauren? Funny. So did I." The shift in her tone made Lauren falter. Her smile faded. "What do you mean?" "I got discharged early," Jessica began, her voice low, each word deliberate. "Wanted to surprise my husband. Turns out I was the one surprised. I saw you, in my bed, with him." Lauren's face cycled through colors, from pale to crimson. The shock left her speechless, her mouth opening and closing soundlessly. "You were in my home, my sanctuary, with the man I loved," Jessica continued, her voice steady, devastating. "And you were my patient, Someone I trusted, someone I helped. I used my hands to ease your pain while you planned to stab me in the back." Tears streamed down Lauren's face, shame and panic mixing. I didn't know. He said you were separating." "He said a lot of things," Jessica cut in. "Said he loved me while plotting to rob me in court. You were the perfect tool for his game. The betrayal to keep me distracted while he planned his move. Now please leave my clinic. Your treatment here is over." Lauren, humiliated, fled the room, bumping into patients in the hallway. Outside, she called Ethan, sobbing, recounting the confrontation. On the other end, Ethan finally understood. Jessica's silence, the locks, the coldness in court, it wasn't blind rage, it was knowledge. She'd seen them. The image of his exposure hit him, and with it, the certainty that any chance of reversal was gone. Ethan's desperation shifted to pragmatism. His easy income was gone. But there was Lauren. Her family was wealthy, connected. He'd known that. It was part of the appeal. With Jessica out of the picture, he turned to his tearful lover. Securing that relationship was now his only ticket to the lifestyle he craved. Meanwhile, at the clinic, Jessica exhaled. The confrontation wasn't revenge, it was closure. The final door she needed to shut. And with it closed, she felt a lightness she hadn't known in months. She was at last free. In her own domain, she was reborn, with a strength, independence, and dignity no one could take. The following months brought rediscovered peace. Jessica embraced herself. She traveled with Rachel, took a pottery class, learned to salsa dance. She was falling in love again with herself. One sunny Saturday at a pet adoption event in a Bellevue park, fate played a new note. She was crouching, playing with a scrappy mutt puppy, when a shadow fell over her. "He seems to like you," said a calm, kind male voice. Jessica looked up. A tall man with dark hair and disarming, sincere eyes stood beside her, holding the leash of a regal golden retriever wagging its tail. "I think it's mutual," she replied, smiling. "I'm Nathan," he said, extending a hand. "This is Goliath." "Jessica." Their conversation flowed effortlessly. Nathan, 37, was a civil engineer. He shared that he was a widower, his wife lost to cancer 2 years prior. He spoke of grief, longing, but also gratitude for their time together. There was no bitterness, only serene acceptance. He was captivated by her story, not the betrayal, which she didn't share, but the woman before him, the dedicated therapist, the woman who built her own home, whose intelligence and strength shone in her eyes. They exchanged numbers. Their first date was coffee that stretched for hours. The second, dinner. The third, a hike in the Olympics. With each meeting, Jessica felt safer, letting her guard down. Nathan was different. He didn't need her, he chose her. He wasn't a project to fix or a man to support. He was a partner. His integrity and sensitivity showed in every gesture, every word. He listened to her full story, the betrayal, the legal fight, with empathy, no judgment. "You're the strongest woman I've ever met," he said, holding her hand across the table. Slowly, with Nathan's patience and respect, Jessica let herself love again. Not with the blind, naive passion of before, but with the wisdom of knowing her worth. Their love wasn't built on need or dependence, but on mutual admiration, companionship, and respect. 2 years later, they married. The ceremony was small, in the garden of their shared Bellevue home, surrounded by close friends and family. No grandeur, just a genuine celebration of two souls who found each other after the storm. Today, Jessica knows the deepest lesson life taught her. True love doesn't trap, demand sacrifice, or feed on pain. It adds, builds together, liberates. The nightmare she lived didn't destroy her. It broke her into pieces so she could rebuild stronger, wiser, and ready for a love that was no dream, but a serene, joyful reality. What did you think of the story? Leave your opinion in the comments with a score from 0 to 10. Subscribe to the channel and click on the bell to follow all our stories. Thank you very much, and see you in the next video.